Hi everyone, I'm Theo.
And I'm Marshall, and this is Twin Cinema.
Alright, so for March, we're going to be reviewing two movies in which the theme is March Madness, and we'll be reviewing two movies in which one of the characters tries to drive another character insane. So, our movies this month are?
They are Gaslight and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Alright, well, let's start off by reviewing Gaslight. Marshall, do you want to give us a synopsis?
Of course.
In London, renowned opera prima donna Alice Alquist has been murdered. Her niece and ward, Paula, is moved to Italy to help her forget the tragedy and to train in opera. Years later, an adult Paula meets and quickly falls in love with Gregory Anton. They marry after knowing each other for 2 weeks, and Gregory convinces her to leave Italy and move back to the house where she lived with her aunt. Despite her reservations, Paula agrees and leaves her career to make a new life with Gregory. As they spend more time in London, Paula begins to feel like she is losing her sanity. Gregory accuses her of forgetting things or stealing things. He tells her she is imagining disdain from their maid, Nancy, and he says that she is imagining the gaslights of the lamps going down when he is away at work. Eventually, Paula feels as if she is unable to leave her house. Unbeknownst to the couple, Cameron Davis, a Scotland Yard agent, is looking into Alice's murder after seeing Paula at the Tower of London. After asking around and finding out about the couple's strange dynamic, his investigation leads him to discover that Gregory killed Alice and is now slipping away into the attic at night to look for Alice's fabled jewels. After Cameron reveals the truth to Paula, Paula confronts Gregory, and he is taken to prison.
So, Theo, what did you think about Gaslight?
Well, I really liked it. I had thought about it specifically because I feel that gaslighting as a term, in terms of someone, trying to make someone else believe that they're insane, has become very in vogue, especially in sort of political sense. I know that I saw this article recently that made me think about it called, are millennials being gaslit or something? I don't know. It seems like, there's a lot about gaslighting whenever Bernie Sanders was running. So it seems to be a very in vogue thing to talk about. So that's why I, picked the film. But I did enjoy it. It's a very well put together film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. To me, it was kind of a slow burn. I think for the most part, they did a good job of making... They were able to plant things into the story that were brought up later, like the brooch that disappears, or the Brian Cameron, the detective who kind of ends up saving the day. He is seen and then gets brought up later by Charles Anton to Paula.
The man who bowed to you that day at the tower. Who is he? Someone from the past? Someone you refused, perhaps?
I never met him. I have no idea who he is.
Who is he? Why is he dogging my footsteps?
I don't know that he is.
You lie. Why do you lie to me?
So I think he did a good job of setting up the payoffs for everything, and then also, there's a few exceptions, and I think we're going to talk about that. It did a really good job of making Charles's gaslighting of Paula believable, and you can kind of see it, but maybe if they hadn't did the first thing, I think, it would have been a lot more subtle.
Yeah, that was really my biggest complaint about the film, is how I feel like they kind of give away the ending too quickly. So I think right at the beginning there's two examples. One example I wish they'd done more of, and one that I thought kind of ruined it. So the first example is whenever, Mr. Anton is wanting to suggest they move to London.
Nice. A room. How would you feel about London?
All right, so you have that. And then shortly later, when Paula finds this letter that was addressed to her aunt, he really freaks out, and to me that gives it away.
It was written by somebody called Sergius Bauer.
Give it to me.
Me too. And granted, we knew what the film was going into it, and we've probably seen, we've seen things like this before, but it just, you knew the husband was a bad guy from the very beginning, and I figured out as soon as that letter came out, I knew that he killed her.
Yeah, I did too. And, I knew he was going to make her to think she's crazy, but, what what more. And I really wonder, like, is it just a difference between what we expect now in film as opposed to what was expected then? You know, would it have been more shocking to an audience back then?
There was a trend of infantilizing women and like, oh, you're such a child, or you're just imagining things, or your female imagination. So, in a way, it could kind of be a subversion of how women were portrayed, except for it feels like Paula kind of almost gives into it a little bit too easily.
Why should... Don't look at me like that. Someone else must have done it.
You have to wonder, like, is it just a time thing? Is it a culture thing? You know, she seems so desperate for his approval. Which, I mean, there are people like that even today. But also, it's just so much suspension of disbelief. I mean, there's so much coincidence in this movie that it's almost like, really? You expect us to believe all this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's Brian Cameron, the man from Scotland Yard, who recognizes Paula, who looks so much like her aunt, and it makes him want to help these people. And then the biggest one is, of course, how Charles Anton finds Paula. He kills Alice Anquist. First of all, how old is he? He looks like he's around her age. A little bit older, but not that old. So I guess Alice must have been a major cougar. And he's able to seduce her, kill her, and then find Paula and able to seduce her too. It just, well, he apparently has a wife.
Right. Yeah, everything just falls into place a little too easily. I mean, again, it doesn't ruin the enjoyment of the film, and as long as you can turn your brain off, it works. I mean, but it is a little insane.
Yeah.
Also insane is looking at Angela Lansbury playing like temptress.
You know, Nancy, it strikes me that you're not at all the kind of girl that your mistress should have for a housemaid.
No, sir. She's not the only one in the house, is she?
Overall, it's a great flick. Well shot, well acted. Despite you knowing what's going on, I still found the ending to be thrilling and compelling.
Yeah.
Even though you knew it was going to happen.
Oh, totally. And Ingrid Bergman's, her ending scene was, you know, when she kind of tortures, goes to Charlie and like a taste of his own medicine.
There's no knife here.
Yes, I put it there. Look
I
for
don't
it.
see any knife.
I put it there tonight.
No, it isn't here. You must have dreamed you put it there.
Is just pitch perfect. So I really recommend it, and I do want to see the 1940 film too, but I think you can't go wrong with Angela Lansbury and Ingrid Bergman. So
Totally.
anyway, all right. So let's talk about Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
All right, here's a quick synopsis. In the 1910s, Baby Jane Hudson is a vaudevillian darling. She is the apple of her father's eye, while her sister Blanche is treated with derision. By the 1930s, the tables have turned, and Blanche is a Hollywood star. Blanche supports her sister by requiring movie studios to have Jane star in films as part of Blanche's contract. One night, after a party, the sisters drive home. One sister gets out of the car to open the gate, and while she is doing this, the other sister floors the gas and runs the other over. Fast forward to the 1960s, and the sisters live a hermetic life in their palatial home. Blanche was left paralyzed by the accident, which Jane is blamed for. Jane takes care of Blanche, but is resentful, especially because all of their money comes from residuals from Blanche's films being shown on TV. Blanche wants to move to a smaller house with their housekeeper, Elvira, and to send Jane, who has become an alcoholic, to a mental institution. When Jane discovers these plans, she plots to drive Blanche insane and to make a career comeback by reviving her childhood vaudeville act. First, Jane torments Blanche by feeding her dead rats and birds, by cutting her off from the phone, and leaving her for hours at a time. In the meantime, Jane finds a piano player, Edwin, to help her with her show. Eventually, Jane takes Blanche captive by tying her up, and kills Elvira, who tries to free Blanche. When Edwin discovers Blanche tied up, Jane realizes the jig is up, and she takes Blanche to the beach, where the sisters spend the night. The next morning, a dying Blanche reveals that she was the one who tried to run over Jane, not the other way around, and that she pretended otherwise to torture Jane. As the cops close in to arrest Jane, she dances on the sand. All right, so Marshall, what did you think?
Well, it is one of my favorite films. I I love Joan Crawford. I know less about Betty Davis, but they just did a really great job. I'm actually surprised Joan wasn't nominated for an Academy Award because I kind of liked her better. I think that just might be a matter of taste because Betty Davis really eats the role up, which I love. Don't get me wrong, but Joan Crawford just has this quiet like desperation, and it's more believable. And granted, you know, Baby Jane is supposed to be this over the top woman child who never really emotionally evolved past 8 years old. So that is part of it. But she seems less believable, especially like with her makeup and her costume. I know that's the point of her, but I felt like she was a little bit unbelievable.
Yeah, I really agree with you. I thought Joan Crawford did a better job than Betty Davis. I think it's interesting. I've only seen 2 Joan Crawford movies. The other one is Straight Jacket. So the only other thing I can really think of when it comes to Joan Crawford is Mommy Dearest, which obviously wasn't played by Joan Crawford. So to see Joan Crawford act so like calmly is kind of like was really weird for me. And I get that Mommy Dearest obviously was over the top and very campy. But yeah, it was interesting. Also, this movie is really campy, which is kind of why I'm surprised it was so well received at the time.
Well, I feel like in the 60s, camp was a little bit more... it's not like it is now. Like, cinema in the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up until the 80s, and even in the 80s to a point, it was more fantastic. It was more fantastical. It was an escape from everyday life. Musicals were still a big thing. Now, camp is not as enjoyed, I think, because we want gritty realism, and like even our superhero movies or our musicals, they still be super gritty. So I can see why, and it's just such a good film. I mean, it launched its own genre of like suddenly all these copycats of like older women playing psychos. It just like I think that could have only happened in the 60s, back when film was like it was transitioning from old Hollywood to new Hollywood. And I think that's like why I love 60s cinema so much, is it's this fertile ground of all these different types of movies.
Yeah, and that was kind of interesting too. When we look at the film, because it starts off in 1917, and then part of it happens in 1935, and then the rest of it takes place in the 60s. And you do see the weird time capsule that they've placed themselves in. Obviously, Baby Jane is very stuck in the 1910s, so like a vaudeville type thing. And, Blanche is stuck in the 1930s, and it's so funny, and whenever they compare like the house that the 2 sisters live in to the house that the family next door lives in, and the next door family is very, in vogue, very modern, very mid-century.
Gee, she must be about 150 by now.
As a matter of fact, dear, I think Blanche Hudson's just a few years older than I am.
I love it. I would love to have my house decorated. Whereas, the ones that the sisters live in is so stuffy, so like ornate, so Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Which is definitely part of the point.
Oh yeah, well it's like, how hard... I feel like part of the reasons that these actresses' careers were over so quickly was because think of how quickly film and entertainment as a medium just changed in the first half of the 20th century. Vaudeville was not a thing. Like, it was probably still a thing like in the 30s and 40s, but it was definitely not a thing by 1950, by the 60s, by the time this was a thing.
Yeah.
So who would have known about Baby Jane? Whereas, we would still watch a movie from 40 years ago, from the 70s or the 50s or 60s or 70s. Who would know any of the stars from the 1910s when you were in the 1960s?
Yeah, we still, especially because film as a medium obviously has more permanence. But, going back to the camp thing, another reason why I think it works and why it was so received is even though Baby Jane is played by Betty Davis, is this crazy over-the-top camp. She's still legitimately terrifying.
Oh, she is scary. I mean, every word she says is laced with venom.
Oh, really? Did she like it? Oh, really? Did she like it? She liked it.
It's fantastic. Now, I prefer Joan Crawford's portrayal. I still love Betty. I love Betty Davis just in a totally different way.
You know, the way in which she makes that one scene where she's under the, like, whenever she's first starting to, like, want to do her show again and she's under the light.
Oh, yeah.
And then the way in which, like, you'll never want your food to be under a silver plate again.
I know.
And that scene where, like, so, you know, the second meal, the meal that Blanche is so afraid to eat, and then it turns out to be nothing, and, like, Jane just, like, tears the meat off with her teeth. It's so insane.
Oh, yeah, and she has the best lines. So, of course, the best line in the movie.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
You know, I use that all the time if someone wants something and they can't have it. And I'm like, well, you are, because you are in that chair, or whatever the situation is. You know, I love it. I don't know, just everything about it, even though it's campy, and I love camp.
I mean, I like camp too, but it's funny. I mean, this film to me really straddles the line between a cult classic and a classic classic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched this with our grandparents. This is a movie that they, you know, it's not a campy cult classic to them. It's just something that came out when they were younger and they really loved. And I like that. I mean, the same thing kind of happened with, like, a lot of things from the 60s, like the Batman TV series, even though that was always supposed to be campy. I don't know, it was just really great. What did you think of the sibling dynamic, since that's very pertinent to
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. You know, we live together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trouble going into this because I want to talk so much more in the comparison video about it, because the whole dynamic is so weird, and it also has a huge suspension of disbelief. Specifically, you know, but I want to talk about, like, why Blanche did what she did. More in comparison, because, you know, I want to talk those motivations between the two. I don't know, it's hard to... God, the way they portray family, period, with the exception of the neighbors. The neighbors have a very normal relationship. Yeah. The, you know, kid just watches TV, you know, talks to their mom, it's fine. But everyone else, like, because it's like, you know, it seemed like in that family in the, you know, the 19-teens, like, the mom and Blanche were against the dad and Jane.
I don't want anything.
What do you think you're trying to do?
There's that scene with the piano player who hit, like, I was trying to figure out, like, is she really his mom? Because the way he talks about her, it seems like he's like a wife he wants to get rid of.
They found her, all right. They found her in some hotel room with a man that she'd never even seen before.
Well, why should that upset you? Isn't that how I was conceived?
There's this way that, like, siblings, and we do it to each other, like, you know, we sort of, like, torment each other, but not on the level that they do.
But also it's just, like, we've had times, like, you know, you have times when you're doing better in your life than I am, and vice versa. But I guess I can't imagine being a child star. How sad is it to peak at 8?
Right.
And then no one cares who you are. You're not talented, because what was needed for vaudeville is totally different than what's needed in a movie. And to have your sister be this super talented star, and, you know, no one knows who you are, and also feel like, well, you owe her because you've ruined her life, but she's also the only reason why you have any money.
Yeah, and that weird, like, tables have turned, because, like, that's a big part of it, too. It's like, at one point, obviously, Jane was bringing in all the money, and then Blanche is bringing all the money, and they both really point that out, you know.
I bought this house for the two of us when I signed my first contract.
You don't think I remember anything, do you? And you never paid for this house. Baby Jane Hudson made the money that paid for this house. That's who.
So, I mean, it's obviously a very codependent, very fucked up family. And, you know, yeah, I guess that's something that's kind of funny when you think about, like, the wholesomeness of the film. Like, you think of, like, older movies being more wholesome. This movie's, like, so not wholesome at all.
This movie was rated X in Britain.
Yeah.
And it's still rated, like, it was rated less than X, and finally went down to a 12, which I'm like, I guess, like, this is, like, a film that there's not that much anything explicit in it, but, like, it's just a nasty film, but I love it.
It is, and, like, the scene where Elvira gets killed, oh my god, that scene, like, freaks it. Oh god, it's so good, but, yeah, it freaks me out. So, yeah, I kind of, yeah, and then there's so many, you know, I don't know how I feel about this movie, like, cinematography, like, I feel like this movie is kind of middling. I think there's some, you know, really great shots, but then I feel like it's kind of, otherwise, it's kind of, like, pretty standard. I think it really is the acting and the characters that carry it forward as a film and make it memorable.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Except, you know, also, what is up? Like, I love her makeup, because it's so crazy, because she's made to look like a doll, and that weird beauty mark,
Well, that's the point. She's supposed to show that she's living in the past. And like you said, it makes me think of Sunset Boulevard, so.
Definitely. But, yeah, both these films, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, because they both deal with the same type of situation in really different and both uniquely fascinating ways. So, if it's not obvious, both these films are great, and we're really looking forward to talking about them in comparison.
Okay. All right, well, we will see you soon. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep. As always, please make sure you check out alcohollywood.com for all the latest updates on both the Alcohollywood podcast, On Tap, and Twin Cinema. And make sure to like us on Facebook. Link is in the description. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.